Wood from the Hood was born from a simple idea: reclaim discarded trees from the local neighborhoods to create beautiful, high-quality wood products. They've partnered with local landscaping companies and city officials to bring dead or dying trees in the Minneapolis area back to life in custom tables, benches, cribbage boards, picture frames, flooring, and so much more. Custom design manager John Buck, who has been there since the company began in 2008, gave us a tour of their facilities and a behind-the-scenes look into their sustainable art.
So these are actually all cataloged, inventoried, and photographed, and so all that stuff is uploaded to our website. So people can actually look through the website and see what we have for inventory for these. So that's kind of nice. And it helps us just from a cataloging standpoint, keeping track of things, but then it also helps clients who come in, if they look at something that's already cleaned up, it's a lot easier to see the grain versus something that's all gray and weathered and kind of ugly. So these are a couple of communal tables for one of our clients that we've worked with. They're in the restaurant industry. When they remodel or open a new store, we'll usually make a communal table for them. And so we've been working with them for 5 or 6 years, and every few years the design evolves or changes, and so this is the current design that they're using. But these are actually ash, so this is what ash looks like with a clear finish. So all the trees that are coming down from emerald ash borer, that's what a finished product looks like. Trees coming down for disease purposes. So we don't go out and harvest anything, and we don't actually do any of the removals. So that's a whole separate crew, separate set of insurance, equipment, all that. But the tree has to be coming down for a reason other than making lumber.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're not out there like, okay, we want this tree. That's a nice tree. There are things like, if we're gonna do a table that has stain, like we're gonna do a stain on the table. I think American elm is a fun one to put stain on, because once you start adding stain, you do bring out a lot of the characteristics of the grain. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Come on outside and you'll see kind of where all this starts. This is what's called a portable band mill. So it basically runs off of like bandsaw blades. So they're less expensive if we run into metal.
Okay.
One of the things with urban trees is that you run into metal inside the trees. I can show you some examples of that back in the office. But we find nails, screws, bolts. They found a really big, like 3/4 inch thick metal rod in a tree last week. That was probably one of the biggest ones we found.
Oh my gosh.
But that was actually used to bolt the tree back together.
Okay.
So like if it gets too big, it'll kind of start to split itself, and then they'll drill all the way through and run a big bolt in there. So right now, the guy pulling lumber, he's actually a newer employee. We brought him on for the summer as a part-time employee. So right now we're sawing 3 days a week. We'll saw him Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So,
nice.
One of the bigger sawmill that cuts our big slabs, they had that out all week last week, taking some of the giant logs and paring them into thick slices, kind of like what they have. Basically, if you laid that sideways, that's an 8-inch thick slice out of a log.
Okay.
And that's because the log was too big to put on the sawmill. So we have to kind of cut it up into thicker chunks, and then we can stand it up and then just slice down it for boards. So,
wow.
So this week they're making regular lumber. Next week we'll probably do the same thing, because we're trying to catch up on some of the stuff we didn't produce last year. So, this is actually for a light rail project. This was cut last year.
Oh, okay.
And this will sit here for another 1.5 years before it actually goes into the kiln.
Wow.
So this is trees that we're taking out for the Southwest Light Rail expansion.
Oh, yeah.
And once they're dried, we're actually going to thermally modify them. So they'll get cooked at 190 degrees centigrade. Which makes the material usable outside. And then we're going to fabricate 13 benches that'll go, I think, to the different light rail stops.
Oh, that's really
or possibly
cool.
a park somewhere. I don't know.
Sweet.
But yeah, that way they're reused. The Met Council wanted to reuse, some of the trees that they took out. So they actually gave us, I think they brought us like 110 or 115 trees.
Oh,
Wow.
So, So it's warm in here. It's warmer than it was outside.
Oh, God.
So this is freshly loaded, so you can feel how humid it is in here, which it's humid outside. It's really
wow.
humid in here. But this just got loaded earlier this week, so right now it's probably about 90 degrees in here. but you can feel all the moisture in the air, and that's what the start of the drying process is. This will be in here for probably about 2 weeks. We start at 90 degrees, and then we'll work up to about 125 degrees. Once the material is down to about 6 or 7% moisture content, we'll then turn it up to 140, which that's considered a heat sterilization. So that basically, if there's any, like something like this where there's a little bit of bark, there could be some like larvae from insects or anything under there. So that 140 will sterilize that and it'll kill any bugs that are in there. It's called a dehumidification kiln. So there's the fans up at the top, and there's a unit to the right. So it's heating the space up. Basically, this is 6-inch thick insulated walls. The floor is 4 inches of concrete with 4 inches of insulation underneath the floor. That way we're not fighting atmospheric temperatures outside. But basically, you heat the box up, the moisture starts coming out into the atmosphere inside. The dehumidifier pulls that moisture out of the air and puts it into a tube that runs under the building and disperses it outside. So that's essentially how you dry wood. And something like that, like I said, it would take about 2 weeks. Some of these live edge slabs, once we dry those can take up to 6 to 8 weeks. So it's kind of an efficiency type thing. Like, these piles stack better, so you get a better flow through the boards. Whereas those are more like a weird version of Jenga, so you don't get as good of a efficient of a flow. So yeah.
If you're looking for the perfect gift idea, schedule an appointment to check them out in person or buy online at woodfromthehood.com.